One of the key challenges for the vertical farming industry in general is that most indoor vertical farms are focusing on growing low cost, high volume products like salads, lettuces, and a lot of basic herbs and leafy greens. But when you take into account the high capital investments and operating costs that are attached to vertical farming operations, most companies are actually struggling to become profitable even, late in the game. So, however, some vertical farming companies have found profitable niche markets from high cost crops, specialty crops with limited availability on the markets. So this is why I'm super excited to have as our guest today Viktor Kulcsár, the founder and head of operations at Veles Farming. Viktor, welcome to the podcast. How are you?
Very good. Thank you for having me. So looking forward to the conversation.
Excellent. So before we jump into the topic at hand, could you just give our audience a super quick introduction to Veles? What do you do and where are you actually based from?
So we at Veles is a Slovak startup, I would say, food tech startup. We focus on growing crops with higher added value. So as you said, not only the lettuces and stuff. So we focus more on exotic crops. We are based in Slovakia. So this is where we conduct most of the operations. And our, let's say, goal is to also become, let's say, the biggest player from saffron. So our product is saffron. We focus on saffron, but we also grow exotic mushrooms on the side currently. We also want to further diversify the portfolio, but this is currently the two product ranges which we focus on to, as you said, like enter the market through a niche and then basically just spread out. So this is very simply what we do.
That's super exciting and definitely needed on the market, especially with some of the issues that we've been having with the indoor vertical farming industry and profitability. Again, before we jump into the topic, one of the core, fun topics that I like to talk about on this channel is the fact that the term vertical farming is a really problematic term because it's a huge umbrella term for a lot of stuff that is happening, in the vertical farming context. So there are different technologies, there are different operations, there's different types of product focus points, consumers, businesses, small scale, large scale, something that we do, something that you do, and so on. So it's super confusing to the general public. So in your own words, how would you describe the term vertical farming? What does it mean?
I would say it's growing in vertically stacked layers, usually in the indoor environment with a purpose to control the inputs of the specific crop that you are growing. So you can provide the plant exactly what it needs when it needs. I think this is the goal of the plant. Of vertical farming, then usually also to bring the goals of production closer to the points of consumption. So basically then you are able to set up farms and grow crops in areas where it was either not possible before or just there is general lack in the market. This is sort of the brief description. Then is like the term of, let's say, full automatization or manual farms. You can basically, if you grow crops at home in a shelf, you can call it a vertical farm. So there is, as you said, the term is very huge. There is a lot of subcategories that fit into it. So it's very hard to precisely tell what exactly it is. But I would say if you are growing vertically above each other, then you are a vertical farm. So it doesn't matter if it's a shelf at home or you run a full-scale commercial saffron farm as us that is automatized. So I think we fill into the same category.
Awesome. That's actually a really I couldn't have put it on in better words in myself. I think that covers pretty much everything. So anyway, so getting actually to the actual point, as I mentioned in the intro and as you kind of preluded as well, most vertical farming operations grow different assortments of salads, lettuces, herbs, leafy greens. Nowadays also even some berries. There is a lot of growing market for indoor vertically farmed strawberries, and different companies are looking into different types of specialty crops. But you've taken a very special and specific route. So why saffron?
For us, so for this, I'll go back into the history where we started as well. We started in Netherlands as a school project. We also started with microgreens, simple leafy greens and herbs, which we sold to restaurants there. This was before COVID. So this business model was working pretty nicely. And then COVID started. So we moved back to Slovakia to just generally because school went online. So it was not worth to spend so much money. So we came back to save some money. So we moved the company as well. And because all the restaurants were closed, so there was nobody to sell to. So we were brainstorming ideas of what other crops to grow, and we were like, okay, let's focus on crops with higher added value, because we just received the first investment, so we are looking to buy a bigger setup or to get a bigger setup, and we were scouting the market, but usually the solutions are pretty expensive. So we were like, let's develop our own solution in a way which we can develop for cheaper as well, and plus we can customize this to our. And so we went with this, and we were looking for crops. We went to wasabi, gentian, cranberries, blueberries, vanilla, papaya. I don't know. We mushrooms. We looked into everything to what we
Yeah.
can grow. And but then we stumbled upon saffron, and we met our also saffron advisor, Dr. Ardalan Givalizadeh. Sorry if I bugged the name. It's pretty hard. He's from Iran, and we met up and talked a bit about saffron and indoor production of saffron. And then we stumbled about saffron, and we realized there is a way to leverage vertical farming to improve the overall production, so to make the product higher quality, higher yield, but we can get into this later as well. So this is how we stumbled about saffron, and then because there is overall reduce in supply, I would say, because of climate change, because where the original parts of saffron is grown, they are getting pushed out, so the yield is falling down. Sorry, somebody is ringing my bell, so I'll just be right here.
That's okay.
Sorry, they came to read the gas. So
No problem. Let's just do it this way. And we're back. Business is booming. I guess that's a good thing. Please continue.
where we left, so in the saffron industry, so we figured out a way to make it better, as there is over a large demand, I would say, for high quality saffron, especially here in Europe, because there has been a tradition. Of course, there is a long tradition in the Middle East. This is Iran, where it originated. So there's thousands of years of history of cultivating saffron and the processes behind it. But also here in EU, there is huge demand also for high quality saffron. And currently, there are a lot of issues on the market. Let's say fraudulency in generally, I would say, where lower quality saffron is sold as higher quality saffron, or the saffron is colored, or the saffron is sprayed with pesticides or chemicals. So this is all which companies don't like. And since the Iran is 95% of the overall saffron supply, majority of the saffron is coming from there. So sourcing saffron here in the EU is quite difficult. So we saw a unique, let's say, opportunity to jump on. So this is why we've also started to focusing on saffron. And then basically through iterations and processes, we are figure out how to also do multiple harvests per year compared to one that the farmers can have. And also just to improve the overall quality, yield, and everything connected.
Awesome. And so saffron is often referred to as the red gold. It's quite expensive by its weight. Just to give you a bit context to the audience, how much would you have to pay for a kilogram of saffron, and how would that compare to gold?
So I would say let's say this also depends on the size order, but usually a gram or a kilo is about 35,000 euros of our saffron. So I don't know how much is now for a kilo of gold, but we people can look it up on the internet. So this is the 7th of May, so check on the market the 7th of May.
So let's see. So let's see. Right now, gold price per gram 69.4 euros, and that would be 74.74 USD. So and grams, the price for saffron would be how much for a gram?
35 euros, let's say. But if we're talking about like very small doses, we go up to 50 or in some use cases, but the general I would say it's 35. So pretty close, I would say. But this is the
Beautiful.
beauty as well, because you can grow something that is in high demand, highly valuable, and also highly priced. So then basically all the costs that you incur as a vertical farmer, like let's say now I think the general rule with vertical farming that the ROI of the farms is between 5 to 8 years. So this way, if you are growing a specific crop that's more valuable, let's say price-wise as well, you can reduce this point of window to much less.
Is that something that you can disclose? How would an ROI look for your system?
Currently, there's still some development going on. So, but currently, I would say it's between 2.5 to 3 years. of
Oh, okay. And for those non-business listeners, ROI would be return on investment. So how quickly you basically make your money back from
yeah.
for the initial investment that you've made. That's beautiful. That's actually really really good. Okay. So jumping into the growing of growing saffron, it's not the easiest crop to grow. It's also not the fastest crop to grow. So what are the biggest benefits and challenges involved with growing saffron? It's vertically specific.
I would say the beauty of going vertically is that you can squeeze a lot more because you are using a setup that controls all the inputs. You can much gently back the crop as well. So, for example, for us, what we can grow on 50 meters square, outside farmer would need 3,000 meters square of area just for the same amount of bulbs that we can produce or harvest in our facility. Then, because you are controlling the inputs more precisely, the quality of the, let's say, the secondary metabolites of the plants are boosted, so the overall quality of the plant is higher. This way, we can also boost the organic compounds. So we mainly work with pharmaceutical companies, so they are looking for high concentration of bioactive compounds that are in the blend. Precisely controlling some inputs, we can boost these. There is also a way to personalize. So if you play with the conditions with the light as well. So for example, if you are a chef and looking for higher aroma, we can do it for you. If you are a company that's looking for a specific compound that needed to be higher, we can do it for you as well. So there is a personalization to customer as well. But then generally you can skip some labor parts, or it's not as labor intensive in a vertical farm because it's more direct on saffron fields are huge. So
Yeah.
we're collecting the saffron, you need to walk kilometers a day, bending down. You have to do it early in the morning because direct sun that catches the stigma reduces the quality. So you have to go to collect early in the morning. And in our
And
farm,
to stop you here, can you actually describe what is the stigma and kind of what parts are do we have in the flower itself?
yeah.
And we can insert some video here on top to give a visual aid as
So
well.
out of the flower, let's say that is the purple part. Then there is a red part that is the stigma, that is the spice that we all know. Then there is some other yellow pistils, I would say. So this is what the plant consists. The plant is unisex, so it basically reproduces by propagation. And then basically you are just every plant needs to be picked manually and handled manually currently. We are working on automating this, but we can get to
Hmm.
this later on. So
Hmm.
this would be the general description of the plant. And
Mm.
then saffron, which you take out, consists of the red part, orange part, and white part. The white part is purely water, and then the orange part is, we call it bee saffron because it contains less of the compounds, less of everything that there's in, and then the red part. So that's called the superligin. This is where most of the money is. This is where, let's say, 90% of the price, 95% of the price is. And this is what you are trying to collect and then dry and
Right.
then process for customers.
And sorry, keep going. So direct sunlight on the stigma, so the red part, so the tendril, the red
Yes.
tendril.
Yeah.
You were saying
Yeah, it
direct sunlight.
reduces the quality. So then, because we can influence the light that we provide to the plant, we can collect all day. So there is no issue with collecting all day. Also because it's we use like scissor lifts and stuff like that.
Mm.
So you can come to the saffron, you can pick it up, stand it up without any bending down. There is still a lot
Mm.
of let's say manual labor that we are looking to automate as well currently. But just reducing this saves a lot of time generally in the process as well. Then automating the overall general process as well. So we work with digital recipe for saffron, which we basically iterate for each cycle, so to improve. And then basically you just plug it into our system, and then the whole cycle is guided with the computer. So basically you are
Mm.
just standing on and looking, viewing if everything is all right, doing some checks, quality control, health control, stuff like this. And then basically you arrive to the harvest, which is the most labor intensive part, and then you just focus on the harvest. So it has a lot of advantages. I would say the disadvantage for a vertical farm is with the propagation as well. So even though we can do it indoor, it's still not perfect. So it still needs some. There is also some learning process that you need to understand of which factors you need to focus on more than others that are more important in the overall growing process. Sourcing saffron bulbs is quite difficult, I would say.
Mm.
There's people that sell low quality saffron bulbs as well, which won't flower at all, or they give you reduced yield. So you have to be careful with this as well. And then having, let's say, the level of expertise that also to understanding not only just the plant side, but then also the managing of the vertical farm. So
Mm,
it's, let's say, outside is more simple from the way that you plant it and it grows,
mm,
and then you harvest. So then in the vertical farm you have to take these, because if something goes wrong in a vertical farm, then the whole yield is basically gone.
mm.
So you need to be very
Right.
very
So the risks are quite high. For
yes,
risk from failure would be quite high.
yes.
So how many cycles can you grow of saffron per year? What kind of data do you have? So cycles. So how many times can you basically harvest the saffron per year? And what do you actually do with the saffron after the fact? How do you process it? The stigma and other parts of the plant.
Mhm. So currently we are focusing on 4 harvests. So traditional farmer can have only one. We figured out a way to do it more. This is
Hmm.
a little secret sauce of ours, but I can
Yes.
share some details as well on how to do it. But basically, when the crop or the plant is in dormancy period, with influencing the conditions, you can move the flowering forward and backwards.
Hmm.
And so this is the way we do it. So basically, then a general cycle takes around, let's say, from 4 to 6 months in a way, depending on the activities that you with the plant. So, for example, some plants you can propagate, some plants you don't have. So all the harvests are from different set of bulbs. So it's not a bulb
Mm,
gives flowers 4 times a year. It's a different set of bulbs that was adjusted for the different flowering time. Then during harvest, when you harvest the saffron, so basically you have to take care that no yellow part is on the red part. Once you do that, it goes for drying. So drying is very important as well during the process, because this is where you can ruin everything. So even if up until this point you did everything correctly, if you dry wrongly, then it's gone as well. And as well because there is not as many harvests. So for example, let's say leafy greens,
mm,
microgreens. Microgreens you can turn every week. So even if something goes wrong in a week, you have the production backup. But with saffron,
mm,
it's not like that. So you have to be very careful. And then
mm,
after drying, depending on the customer. So let's say our main markets that we sell is either food, pharmaceutical, cosmetical, or textile. Textile is like
mm,
we focus on the least, but for food it goes right away as dried red stigma. And with pharmaceuticals and cosmetics, we either process into extracts, tinctures, or anything that the customer requires. This is currently still being outsourced to other companies, but we want to
mm.
do it ourselves later on. So we want to become we are a vertical farm, and we want to be a fully vertically integrated company as well. So then to focus, basically have influence on everything from point A to point Z.
Super interesting. So you spoke about the biggest benefits and challenges with growing saffron, and what specifically, you already mentioned some of these parts, but if we dig a bit deeper into the benefits that indoor vertical farming specifically brings to the cultivation of specialty crops like saffron. So in the beginning of the podcast, you mentioned that you looked into a lot of different specialty crops, including, of course, saffron that you chose then, but wasabi. We are actually growing wasabi right now, and it's working
Yes.
great. Of course, with our size system, the volumes are not massive, but it's
Mhm.
it's it's beautiful. You talk about different rare berries, even vanilla grows extremely slowly, but that's also a lucrative plant. So what kind of benefits does vertical indoor farming specifically, bring to growing these kind of specialty crops,
Mhm.
in your opinion?
I would say there are three main areas. So there is that you can harvest more times a year. Also in an area where it was not possible before, or let's say you can farm also during winter. So they basically have a constant supply that you can produce. Then there is I would say the quality factor. So because you can precisely control the inputs and give the plant what it needs when it needs, the overall quality of the product is higher compared to traditional grown. In some cases, yes, in some cases not. This is up for debate. This is where a lot of debate happens as well in the space, because, for example, we cannot label as organic here in EU because we don't
Mm,
produce soil, so stuff like this. But we are working on a label to have it labeled as better than organic, because the quality is over, and then the yield. So because
mm,
you control everything, you can grow much more in a smaller compact space, and also
mm,
generally you can get more out of the X you put in. The Y that gets out in a vertical farm is quite higher compared to traditional farms. And then
mm,
also, like, let's say the advantage is because there is a change in customer preference, so you can
mm,
play into the trends of let's say being more healthy, sustainable, stuff like
mm,
this. This is the trends that vertical farm can pick up, so you can basically then craft your offer in a way that it plays on the benefit of these trends. So then you basically have a growing customer base overall. Yeah, this is I would say the main advantages of vertical farm. That is.
And what kind of special requirements does specifically growing saffron bring to your vertical farm? I would guess that you can't just, your general Joe can't just set up a vertical farm in your basement and start growing saffron. It doesn't probably work that way. So what kind of special requirements are there?
To be honest, we started the way we were just the regular Joe who started growing saffron in a let's say we had our prototype tower, so it was kind in a way already a vertical farm, more professional, let's say, but it's still we are like my background is not in plant science or plant or anything. I'm also a business major like you, so I didn't know anything about plants, so we just went with
Mm,
it. This is a good point that we learned on microgreens and leafy greens because we have a lot of
mm,
cycles. And basically, they can grow even without you providing the right conditions or everything. But with saffron, I think the main thing you have to be careful is if you have the right bulb and then providing the bulb the precise conditions in the cycle. So there is a
mm,
definition in like when they come out of dormancy, between dormancy and flowering, in flowering and in propagation. So you need to understand how
mm,
to change this correctly, and
mhm,
also uh, with saffron, you have to understand the process. So saffron here in Northern Hemisphere flowers in wintertime. So you are working with cold. So you have to
mm,
understand how to introduce the cold for saffron in a way to make it flower.
mm,
Basically, we call it the cold choke. So you cold choke the saffron with very low temperature for some time, and that triggers the flowering. And then basically also during the flowering you adjust the temperatures based on how you want the flowering to be triggered. So
mm,
we go like peaks, but then basically after a peak you again lower to trigger basically the lowering of the temperature boosts or the nutrient uptake into the
mm,
sprout produces the flowers, so then you get more
mm,
flowers in a way as well. So understanding, because saffron is very heavy on condition. So if you don't provide
mm,
it bad conditions, your results are going to be bad. So I think this is
mm,
the most important part. Otherwise, if you don't need a full scale automatic professional setup. There is a lot of people in like third world countries who grow
mm.
saffron in baskets. In baskets,
Right.
they put it in their window and it grows. Like, okay, then we can talk about the quality of the saffron. Of course, it's not going to be that high, but for some people, it's enough. So also the use case that you want to have, like if you are just selling, let's say to restaurants, they don't need the highest bioactive compounds, and they don't
Mm,
understand if you tell them like the crossing, pyrocrossing, saffron are
mm.
at this stage, this will result in this. They don't care about this. For them, it's like, okay, if the aroma, taste, color is good, I'm buying.
Excellent. And you already kind of touched on this point. Actually, in the first episode of this podcast, we spoke to Dan Nielsen from Seasony, who
Oh,
works
yeah.
on mobile automated systems or
Yeah.
mobile automation systems for vertical farms. And we touched upon a lot of topics around automating vertical farms. There are static automated systems, and we have mobile robotics that Season is working on. And you can have different automation stages for different stages of growing. Really poorly put it, but there's a lot of automation that goes to vertical farming. So first of all, you mentioned that you're doing the harvesting by hand.
Mhm.
Can you share anything about how you are going to automate this labor-intensive process in the future? Some kind of sneak peek into what you're planning, and what other types of automation do you have in your system?
Mhm. So first, shout out to Seasony, and then we work with them as well. We are
Awesome.
part in a research project, and we are planning on automating the farm with their solution as well, in a way. So they do great stuff. So I suggest everybody, if they're looking for stuff, they solutions they provide, to work with them. But our automation, I'm not gonna pinpoint the exact intricacies of how it works, because there is a, let's say, I would say now a rush to create the first saffron sorter, I'll call it.
Mm, okay.
Basically, I think this is where some of the saffron companies, they are focusing as well. The problem is not with the harvesting. The harvesting is
Mm,
the easiest part of the job. The problem is with the sorting on large scale, because
mm,
generally our calculation is for every one guy that picks the flowers, you need three guys that process the flowers. So for our farm, currently we run with around 80 people during harvest. So it's
wow.
basically
Okay.
like your small army, and you need to delegate everybody. So this is where it gets challenges. Plus, our farm is, let's say, compared to the big leafy green farms, it's still quite small. Even
Mm,
though we have the biggest farm for saffron, it's still quite
mm,
small. Let's say if we call it in vertical farming sizes. And so
mm,
if to scale up, this issue has to be solved. So we are trying to
mm,
come up with the way we call it the sorter. So basically, the aim of the sorter is that you just drop in the flower and it sorts everything out to petals, the yellow, the yellow part and the red stigma basically was about, and also the red stigma is already cut into the red and the yellow part. So basically, then you just throw in the flower and everything comes in a way. I'm not gonna go in how the machine works. This is our
Sure, yeah.
the secret sauce, but this is where most of the labor connected to saffron is. So the sorting of the saffron, the harvesting is quite easy. It can be quite fast. So for now, this is where we focus on the automation. This has to be solved first in order to scale. Once we solve this,
Mm.
we introduce also, this is something that we actually work in season for, is
Hmm.
flower detection. So
Hmm.
when is the flower ready or
Hmm.
basically ready to be picked? And then
Hmm.
we would build up a robot that either works, it's a robotic arm, but those are quite small, not small, slow still. So you would need either a lot or a robot that works like a, let's say, 3D printer. So it moves on all
Mm.
axes and jump over the tray. So then it would pick the flowers at the right time based on camera imaging, basically. So it would have
Mm.
we would feed it with a lot of data on what makes the flower ready to be harvested. Because also this is a key with saffron. You don't want to let the flower open too much. You just want to basically, there's a precise point when it's opened tiny bit. This is where you want to pick it. This is where you get the best quality, and this is where most of the nutrients already traveled to the spice, let's say,
Mm.
or developed in the spice. So then the first step is the sorting. Then the next step of automation is the harvesting also in the tray, or either this is still not decided. Either it's going to be in the tray or the tray comes out and it's going to be harvested on a station.
Mm.
It's still up for debate in the company as well.
Mm.
So this is the way to automate, and then basically automating the growing conditions, everything. So
Mm.
basically, our goal is to create a system that's fully autonomous and it's able to make decision on its own. So you just
Mhm.
basically stand on the side and watch everything, and then also connect it like the sorting of the bulb. So whenever you are
Mm.
training bulbs to figure out which bulbs are healthy, so this currently it's also done by people, but this is also easy to automate. But this is a small step. So the sorting is
Mm.
the biggest part that the automation is looking for, and then you can basically sell the machine as a product as well to other farms. But me would maybe keep it as an advantage for a few years to grow, and then we will see. But
Awesome. And also a couple of episodes ago, we spoke to Roland Sear, who's a really well known nutrient specialist in the indoor farming industry. And with him, we spoke, and as well as with Dan, we spoke about the different methodologies for doing indoor farming. We have the general term of hydroponics. We have deep water culture. We have aeroponics, we have even fogbonics that we are touching into. There are all sorts of vertical farm or hydroponic systems or irrigation systems for vertical farms. Roland also touched a lot on the importance of nutrients and nutrient optimization together with light on growing high quality crops. You mentioned nutrients getting into the flower. I guess this is a super important part of your business as well to get the highest quality of saffron flowers. So, can you talk a bit about optimizing nutrients and lights with saffron growing? What kind of special requirements are there? You've spoken about cycles and so on.
so when you are preparing, so basically the way how successful your harvest will be, also quality wise, begins a year before. So this is the propagation of the
Mm.
bulbs the year before. This is where they take up all the nutrients, then they go normal, dormant, and they use up all the nutrients that they basically got during propagation in your next harvest. So you have to be understand
Mm.
basically to understand also in what step of the propagation of the bulb what it needs. So there is difference in, let's say, fertilizers that we use. So in the beginning you give more of, let's say, zinc, NPK, magnesium, iron, and this then later on basically you give more of a like a seaweed mix and stuff. And this is also where, as you mentioned, light is very important. So having the light right micromoles, having the right spectrums of light, so understand which spectrum of light, like the red and the blue, how it influences the overall behavior of the plant, and to provide it when what it needs when it needs with, let's
Mm.
say, light form. So this is like we also iterate on this a lot as well. Currently with propagation, we try a lot of methods as well. With some substrate, without substrate, because there is also
Mm.
some differences in the development of the bulb. Currently, the
Mm.
tradition, I would say, uh, the hydroponics and the traditional way, it's still like fighting for the number one spot. I think the
Okay.
hydroponics is gonna be did soon, with some development needs to be done. But the traditional ways, you can also provide like cow manure and stuff like this, which you don't want to bring into vertical farm because then it's just gonna contaminate everything, you know. So so you have to come up with clever ways to basically substitute the organic matter that is going to be around the saffron. Plus, you have to also understand the soil analysis and how to base your nutrient uptake or intake for the plant based on the soil analysis that saffron usually grows in. So basically,
Mm.
then you mix the fertilizers according, because when you source bulbs, they come from different regions with different soils. So then, if you
Mm.
take a bulb from, let's say, Netherlands, and irrigated or propagated in a way that you would irrigate bulbs from southern hemisphere, it wouldn't
Mhm.
work as perfectly as with them. So then taking this in
Mm.
mind as well in the process is very, very important.
Super interesting. Excellent. So we've been talking quite a bit about saffron, and you all, as mentioned, you already looked into different other specialty crops, and on at least Veles's LinkedIn page, you don't necessarily brand yourself as a saffron farmer solely, but instead you're looking into high cost, rare crop species. So, what kind of plants do you think we will see grown in vertical indoor farms in the future? And you mentioned a couple plants that you have been looking into, and you mentioned mushrooms.
Mhm.
But is there anything else brewing under the hood at Veles Farming that we should know about?
I would say currently it's only saffron and mushrooms. We still want to capture, I would say, bigger market share first, and then diversify, because then it gets like you are focusing on two. If you're fighting on too many battlefronts, then you will lose. So focus on either one or a few that you can do well, and then once you do them well enough, then you can focus on other stuff. But I think generally, I think vertical farming, in the future, you would be able to grow anything. So basically, I would say in the beginning, the aim for the vertical farming was to produce crops for astronauts in space. So if you can grow in
Mm.
space, then you can grow basically almost on Earth. You would be able to. But I think we will go into cereals. I think this is a big area where there's more of the, let's say, sustainable issues with agriculture, because a lot of it
Mm.
has to be grown, let's say, for just animals, to feed the animals that we later eat. There is a huge portion of just cereals going to them, not to people. So I think cereals is one big area, and then, as you said, it's like the specialty crops, the niches. So I would say, in some areas, demand has to build up, and like the, let's say, the curve, the equilibrium has to be found on when it makes sense to grow. So I
Mm.
think advances in light, general technology, bring the overall cost of vertical farming down. Then, as for example, with this podcast, we can spread some knowledge around, so then more and more people know about vertical farming and get the idea. So I think the network effect of the overall industry still needs to go on for some years to enable, let's say, some crops. But I think later on, like trees or fruit
Mm.
tree, whatever you can imagine, I think you would be able to grow in a vertical farm with, let's, even in the beginning, a specialty setup, but then later on with, I would say, a general setup. And
Mm.
to bring under the hood in Veles. So we are, as I said, we are looking for to fully vertically integrate. So we are also trying to take up the extraction process, and we want to develop our own final products. So as we sell to a lot of pharmaceutical companies, especially nutraceutical companies, and Saffron is coming out with a lot more like health benefits of saffron. Let's say it produces, helps produce serotonin, and what is the one with sleep? I forgot the name now. Melatonin.
Melatonin.
Yes,
Yes.
melatonin. So then it better creates better quality sleep, reduces stress, increases libido, reduces hunger. Stuff like this. So you can then, these are now huge, let's say, buzz terms, and the well-being industry is also growing a lot. So then basically we will also try to focus on growing our final products, and then, as you said, like focus on differentiation of products, so bringing in new products as well. Currently, as well, we are trying to play with the idea to be, we call it Project Gateway. So
Okay.
because we are approached with a lot of farmers from all around the world, and they struggle with selling their crops. So we would maybe
Mm.
supplement this. This would be more of like a trading part out of the
Mm.
farming part. And then generally, get the automation to level when we can be a turnkey provider. So then basically, if anybody wants to set up a fully automated saffron vertical farm, they come
Mm.
to us. like, okay, this is the price, and you basically just we build the farm for you, and you just sit on the side and basically watch everything grow, and everything is done for you. So this would be the aim or the general the vision of the company that we want to progress forward.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much. Generally speaking, where do you see the vertical farming industry going? We've been, I think, Roland put it quite well. We've been, sorry, I'm sorry, Dan put it quite well. We have gone through a slump recently,
Yes.
and but there are some signs that we are getting back to normal, and vertical farming companies are now popping up once again almost every week, kind of all over the place. So where do you see the future of the industry, and from your perspective specifically?
I think we just went over the, let's say, I would call it like a vertical farm bubble, the same what we
Mm,
the internet went through. When a lot of people jumped in, it was like a hot thing. There was a lot of buzz generally. So then a lot of people just put the technology as the primary I would say focus, and I think it has to be balanced. So you have to balance the
mm,
technology and the growing part as well. So people invested in a lot of automation technology, which you don't really need in some cases as well. So then generally the farms will fail. There is also now there was huge farms that fail, but small farms as well. There's a lot of stuff in the recent, let's say, 1 year where a lot
mm,
of that went out of business because they were not able to achieve profitability. This is maybe also here in EU, maybe because with the rise in electricity prices, but in some areas it's quite small, but the farm still failed. But
mm,
I think once we go over, it works in a way like a stock market, you know. So some years you
mm,
go up, some years you go down. So currently, I think we hit, let's say, the bottom area, and then we are ready to make the jump. I think this is connected to the network effect of the vertical farming industry in
mm,
general. Where more people get in, the collaborations are being built up also on the automation side, growing side,
mm,
solution side, everything basically. So more of this has to happen first. So basically, like now the base is built. Now we are doing the first floor. So we have to finish the first floor, and then and slowly over time we can build the skyscraper. But you just cannot start from the top and then build down. You know, it has to go. It has to go bottom up. So I think with time we will be able to get there. I think, as I said, also the advancement in technology, especially light, like it has to
mm,
be cheaper, more efficient, than just general cost of the solutions that are on the market. I understand in some solutions they are pricey for different reasons.
mm,
If let's say more of a general small side business wants to get into vertical farming, it's still quite impossible unless you want to start very like a low cost, which is not bad idea. I think I would
mm,
generally start with smaller farms, low cost, and then once you understand the processes, then you understand what to automate, how can you bring in technology
mm,
and stuff. Well, I think this is a great way to do it, something like in
mm,
a lean approach, I would say,
mm,
because I think most of the companies just jumped to the end with
mhm,
I want to build a Bugatti, Ferrari, you know, but they don't how to run the car or build the car correctly. So I think this just has to get, and we just have to, let's say, stay in the kitchen a bit longer to cook some more dishes and then perfect it even more, and then we are ready to serve quality stuff.
I think I would put that into maybe the best or the second best way of putting how the vertical farming industry has gone.
Yeah.
Albert Lin from VegBed put it really well in his LinkedIn post a few months ago, where he basically said that people who think that farming can scale up like SaaS or software as a business service need to rethink their ideas. But you put it quite well. So vertical farming, the start of vertical farming was like startups trying to grow a Bugatti Veyron or supercar from their basement in Silicon Valley. Doesn't quite
Yeah.
work. Too many ways to go wrong at first. Viktor, thank you so much. This has been super insightful. Really, really great. Where can people find you and Veles if they want to, talk to you or reach out in business?
So generally, most of the, let's say, the time you spend is on LinkedIn, but we also have Instagram page, a Facebook page, and currently we started a YouTube. Or they can just reach out generally, I would say, through some of those, or the internets, or the website, velesfarming.com. You can go there. There is a contact. Now the number is directly for me as well. So if you write the number or call the number, please don't call during the night because of the of the time changes as well. I get calls at 3 a.m. So it's I think we'll switch it. But generally most of the stuff still I try to reply to. So then you are directly connected to me. So then if you want to grow saffron or looking to grow saffron, then just reach out and we can talk about it.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Great discussion.
Thank you as well. I enjoyed it as well.